Now, I want to circle back to the investment pieces and what this broadcast deal can do for that. But one of the big talking points out of this announcement, one of the big points that has been reported and possibly not reported overly accurately, is that Super Rugby Pacific won't be shown on free-to-air, is what's been reported. Now, there's obviously plenty of elements of this deal that will stay on free-to-air. Wallabies test matches, Wallaroos test matches, for example. But to say Super Rugby Pacific is no longer going to be on free-to-air is not entirely accurate. Can you clarify that?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I mean, it's not a contractual obligation for Nine to show Super Rugby on free-to-air. But as we've seen this year, in terms of the benefit that we're getting through the free-to-air coverage and the relationship that we have with the executives at Nine, then we feel like we'll have constructive conversations to ensure that there's value creation, both what we're doing on the field, but then also how do we connect with our rugby supporters, with sports supporters, so that we get benefit on both sides, both at RA and with Nine. And so, I mean, as a really long way of saying there's no contractual obligation, but we think we'll get to a very constructive outcome.
So if there's a big game, so there's Queensland versus New South Wales, or Brumbies versus the Tars, or a semi-final of Super Rugby, Channel 9 then have the option with RA to then put that game on free-to-air on a Saturday night.
Yeah, they've got an option for every game. But as you say, we had almost 600,000 viewers for the Reds and Waratahs game only a few weeks ago. You can see there's an appetite there for our supporters and for sports supporters, and so the optionality is absolutely there. It's just not a contractual obligation, is the best way to describe it.
And flexibility is probably the key word. It's not always Saturday or won't always be Saturday. It could be in the future. The flexibility to put a big game on a Friday night, or if there's the appetite there, or even the agreement between the two parties that this is what's best for growing the game, is we then start to put that game on free-to-air, or we put this product on free-to-air.
Yeah, and scheduling is becoming a really important part for how we look at our test matches in particular, but also Super Rugby. And for example, we're playing in Newcastle against Fiji on the 6th of July this year, and we're going to kick off at 1:30 in the afternoon. So you're on free-to-air main channel, and then you run into the 4 o'clock Rugby League afternoon game. But what we're trying to do is coexist and drive as much interest into the game as we possibly can. So it's not just rugby supporters following and watching rugby. It's all supporters and all Australians.
So the growth strategy around, I mean, I imagine, you're going to need a bit of a ramp to be deciding whether it's going to be an FTA exposure or not, when it's going to be released from behind a paywall and then released to sort of the community satellite programming Channel 9 main channel. Because one of the things that we've noticed, right, Stan access at pubs and clubs, right? That was one of the things that's been an underlying theme of the last broadcast deal. Are we going to start to see more engagement from pubs and clubs and more group showing scenarios to increase that growth strategy and help that through the door?
Yeah, we're on that path. I think that one of the challenges has been pubs and clubs, and that's been no secret. And I think that the number of people who watch sport in pubs and clubs is really important. And so, again, the collaboration that we've had with Nine, we've made great progress in the last 12 months. And as we lead into the next cycle, we need to continue to grow that exposure in those environments where we know there's a lot of people watching sport in those environments, and we need to really leverage that.
I think it's worth noting too that even with the last broadcast deal, or the one we're still currently on, finishing up at the end of this year, even the contractual elements around what's on the Stan Sport platform and what's available to free-to-air, that has been flexible as well. There's been plenty of times when games that weren't necessarily part of the contract to be on free-to-air have been put on free-to-air because there was a recognition this is the best thing for the game. If I think about round one this year, the Waratahs opening game of the season against the Highlanders, Joseph Akuso-Suoliti playing his first game of Super Rugby, that was a Friday night, which I guess contractually you might say is just on Stan Sport, but there was an agreement that this was the best thing for the game, the best thing for the competition, to put that on Friday. So over the last 5 years, there's been a lot of collaboration, to use your word, Phil, between the two to do things over and above what's contracted necessarily for the good of the game.
Yeah, I mean, one point that we're certainly leaning into today is that this isn't a transactional relationship with Nine. Like, this is a true partnership, and we need to play our role in driving value to Nine, just like Nine needs to help Rugby Australia drive value to Rugby Australia. And so we'll work absolutely collaboratively to ensure we're getting the right outcome and the greatest value creation for both organisations in a true partnership sense.